Great. Well, wrestling fans, thanks for joining us today. We're here on NCSA Facebook Live and also going to be streaming on USA Wrestling's Facebook Live page. I got a few special guests with us today. Drew Periano, lead wrestling recruiter for NCSA, as well as USA Wrestling's women's freestyle national team head coach Terry Steiner and assistant national team coach Clarissa Chun. Just here to talk today about women's wrestling and the growth it's had, and even during this pandemic where it's been nothing but bad news for the most part for the entire world of sports. We've seen more states adding women's wrestling and even some colleges adding programs, and just kind of a bright spot within the sports world of the continued growth that not even a pandemic can slow down the momentum we've had in women's wrestling. So Terry, just wanted to start off with you, and for sure Drew and Clarissa jump in for this question, but just want to talk about the current landscape of women's wrestling and the level that it's at now compared to when you first started, I think back in 2002, Terry, and to where it's at today.
Well, definitely, like you said, Ryan, we've had unprecedented growth the last few years, and it seems to be continuing. Like you said, during the pandemic, we've had 3 college programs add women's wrestling, and 2 states sanction the sport for girls in their state. So we do continue to have great growth even through this time period, and we don't see that slowing down. It's much different. The landscape is much different than it was in 2002 when I came in, right? And when I remember the time in 2002 when I was asked to come on board as coach and more so advocate, I think, trying to move the sport forward. It was still taboo at that time. I think on the mainland, especially, maybe, Clarissa's from the state of Hawaii. I think there was a lot of different people in that kind of a culture, but on the mainland U.S., I think that it was still taboo to venture into this sport, and a lot of the coaches and people around the sport just didn't understand why we would open this up to women and didn't agree with it. And I felt like there was so many people against it at that point. And now when we look at it, there's just, I feel like there's an army of people behind us, and there's an army of foot soldiers out there that are just doing a lot of legwork to make the reality happen. And I knew at the time coming into it that changing the attitudes and the minds of the people in the sport to open women's wrestling, that would be a generational change, right? We could have a few people out there, but to really change the whole landscape of it, that would take time. And what's happened is our young coaches now that are starting to coach at the high school level and the college levels, they're the athletes that really haven't seen the sport without it. They've been involved with wrestling, and they've had girls on their teams or around them and at wrestling competitions. So they really feel that, why wouldn't we do this? It seems very natural to them, but that, 10 years ago, that wasn't the case, and so the growth has really accelerated, I would say, the last 4 years, and really to the point right now where I don't think anything is going to stop it. I think it's going to continue to grow and grow, and opportunities are going to open up more and more.
And Clarissa, from your standpoint, Terry mentioned growing up in Hawaii where women's wrestling was a little bit more popular than maybe the mainland at that time. But what have you seen changing even in Hawaii or on the mainland since you were in high school?
Yeah, I went out for wrestling the first year they had made it a state sport, and they sanctioned the sport of wrestling, and awesome for Hawaii to jump on board way ahead of the times. On my high school team, but other teams had more girls. But growing up through judo, watching my judo teammates wrestle, I would see maybe 1 or 2 female wrestlers in the mid and early 90s. But by my second year of wrestling, my senior year in high school, it jumped from 2 on my team to 15 girls on my team. So it's just kind of that mentality of, you build it, they'll come kind of thing. And it's just positive opportunities for the girls and the growth. And sometimes I think it's crazy that it's been over 20 years that Hawaii has sanctioned it as a sport, and yet still there's still over 20 states that still hasn't sanctioned. They're giving the girls the opportunity to wrestle. So as far as like separate from boys, but yeah, tremendous growth. Even on the international level, like going to my first world championships in 2000 compared to now is just exploded all across the world. So
yeah, and on the international level, we've seen a lot of countries that weren't necessarily traditional wrestling powerhouses, a lot of Western European countries developing women's teams, as well as, you know, countries like Russia and Japan. And it's really increased the geographic footprint of wrestling, which was already huge. And just the technical skill level internationally too has just exploded. And the USA is leading the charge in that effort. I mean, what have you guys seen from more on the coaching side of things within women's wrestling in terms of accelerating the development of women's wrestling from a technical standpoint?
Well, I think that's where it starts. You know, I think the Asian culture definitely has influenced the sport greatly, right? And even as Clarissa spoke, coming from the state of Hawaii, you know, a state like that has very much Asian influence. They were very open to it and very open to the martial arts in general. Right? And we would, on the mainland, we would have coaches that were lifelong coaches in the sport. But yet they wouldn't bring their daughters into the wrestling room. They would send them across town to a judo or taekwondo class, right? And then for some reason they didn't make the connection there. But what you've seen over time now is, you know, I think like like the U.S., right? We realized that an Olympic medal is an Olympic medal. Once it became an Olympic sport, it gave all the legitimacy it needed to the rest of the world. And once that happened, then you saw the rest of the world really jump on board, right? The Russia, the Ukraine, Belarus, and those types of countries, the former Russian republics that are traditionally rich in wrestling. Now they've jumped on because they realize that we can win Olympic medals here, right? And we already have a group of coaches that, you know, are great coaches in our country that can influence the sport greatly. And that's what's happened in those countries. They've jumped on board and got behind women's wrestling. And the landscape has changed considerably. Now you go to the World Championships, there's a lot of teams that can be in there to win it, right? Where maybe before it was the people that started early and got in early and got ahead of it. I mean, they were the ones that were at the forefront. But now, you know, the landscape around the world, I mean, there's a lot of top coaches spending time with our female athletes, and that's really what you need in any country. And that's where we're at with the U.S.
Yep. And Drew, you work more directly with the college programs here in the U.S. What have you seen on the college women's coaching side? Just the growth and the proficiency level of the coaching over the last few years.
Well, it just keeps getting better and better. And the other thing that I like seeing is I love seeing women's coaches coach their female athletes. And like you look at Limestone, the head coach and the assistant coach, both women, and an Olympian, right, on the staff. And like, I love seeing that progression. You know, and nothing against guys coaching, Terry, right? You're one of the best coaches in the world, but it's great, you know, to see women. They're at this point now where they're giving back to the sport, and they can make a living. They can make a living coaching after their international career's over, or even if they don't go to the international career, their college career, and they can coach. They can give back to the sport. And I'm seeing that growth exponentially. The other thing that we're seeing, you know, with like St. Andrews adding wrestling in North Carolina, I mean, that's an underpopulated area. for college wrestling for women. And so the nice thing is, these programs are popping up all over the country. It's not just one area. And I think that's really important. I'd like to see more women's programs in the Northeast for sure. So that way, the young ladies I work with don't have to travel so far. But Clarissa, you might like this. Last night, I was talking to Casey Tanamoto, who grew up in Hawaii, and her family just moved to Texas. And I told her that we were doing this today. And she's like, "You're talking to Clarissa Chun?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, not really." I'm like, "But I'm on the same call." She was like, "She's my hero." Like, that's where we're at right now. That's where we're at right now. And she moved to Texas, and I go, "Congratulations, because now you've wrestled in two of the best states." I was like, "Now you just have to move to California and you'd be in the top 3 women's states in the country."
Yeah. That's awesome.
And Clarissa, I mean, you and Jessica Medina are both products of the national team that have now become professional full-time coaches. Is that something that you see as more of these top-level athletes, as they transition from being an active athlete, more of them will stay involved as coaches for the next generation?
For sure. I hear of it from our athletes now, they want to be coaches of top programs, and shoot, Adeline wants to take over USA Wrestling, she wants Rich's job, and she tells that to Rich every time. So it's good. It's great opportunities for all girls and women coming up through the sport.
And really, it is the evolution, right? I mean, if we don't do that and we don't seek that for our future, I think that we're going down the wrong path. I mean, just like we have the John Smiths of the world, the Kiel Sandersons, the Tom Brands, Tom Ryans of the world that, were Jesus heroes. I mean, and now they're their coaches. I mean, we should have the same thing within women's wrestling. Right? We should have, the Marulis's, the Adeline Gray, the Wagons, and the Jara Winchesters, Tamara Menses. I mean, those people, hopefully they are our next coaches, right? And giving back to the sport that has given them so much. I mean, that's really what it's all about. And we really hope those opportunities continue to open up for them. But happening with more and more and more programs coming. I mean, I think the other side of it is, just making sure that we put, when athletes transition to become a coach, we've got to give them time to grow, right? And we've got to give them mentors to grow and not throw them into head coach positions so soon, right? But make sure that they have a couple of years as an assistant coach and learn the ropes a little bit, because coaching and teaching is one thing. Teaching technique and this and that, but there's more to it than that, right? It's being the CEO of the program and running the overall program, giving them those types of skills to move the program forward in a positive direction. And I think that's my concern. I think is, yes, I think we need to, as our college athletes finish their degrees, we need to try to get them thinking about coaching. Whether it's at the high school level or the college level. But I also think that we need to make sure that we're giving them the right leadership and mentorship so they can do it, greatly and be successful at it.
And more than ever, there's more opportunities for them to continue on as a coach somewhere. And Drew, I think you might have the numbers, but we're over 80 college women's programs now.
Yeah, Terry, I have 84. Is that what you have?
Yeah, it's right around there. I think it keeps growing so fast, but I think it's 84, 85. I think it might be with St. Andrews coming on. But the numbers keep growing. I mean, that's been in the last 4 weeks, right? We've had 3 more programs coming.
Well, I did a PowerPoint because we do at NCSA, we do a specific class for women's wrestlers. We call it Women's Wrestling Recruiting 101. And I checked the document and it was 81 programs. This is kind of fascinating. And then I'm like, oh, I have to run that class next week. And I had to update it. And now it's 84, which is really exciting. Like that's that's awesome. And I want to keep doing that. And then like when I'm talking to freshmen in high school right now, I'm telling them like by the time you're a senior, I'm just projecting like I think there'll be 100 programs by that time.
For sure.
More than that, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm being modest. I think 100 at the low end.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the high school participation numbers are exploding at the same rate. I think South Dakota just added women's wrestling, and Oklahoma not long before that. And so if that's on your PowerPoint, Drew, you got to continue to update that almost on a weekly basis as well.
Yeah, I did today, which is exciting. Like you're always making those adjustments because it's important to get the right information out to the student athletes. And it's exciting. I said this on our last interview. When you're checking Intermat, it normally happens on a Monday or a Friday, and you're like, wow, there's another program. So it's super exciting.
It's imperative, right? It's imperative for our sport to grow together. I think to have our college programs adding at the rate they are, we need to have our state sanctioning at the same rate because we need to make sure that those programs have athletes to fill their programs and fill their slots. So I think it's imperative that we keep the states moving forward in the right direction. And it showed, right? In a state like Missouri, they've shown what sanctioning can do for their numbers, right? I mean, if you look a couple of years ago, before they sanctioned the sport, they had like 200 athletes in there. And 1 year after they sanctioned it, they went from 200 to over 900. And then this year they went from 900 to like 1,400. Mm-hmm. Once they sanction, it's really a way for the state to just really have the number. Like Clarissa said, if you give the opportunity out there, the athletes will come, and that's what Missouri is showing.
Yeah. To expound on that, like in my home state of Ohio, their first state tournament this year, they had 179 female wrestlers, and they're already talking that they think next year 300, and then it's going to evolve they're going to go into the sectional district format, just like the men do, and that's where we need to move. Like with states, we need to get to that like qualification process, and I think that would be amazing. Where there's a process just as equal as the men's wrestling, and that's where we want to go with it.
Mm-hmm. One of the unique things about women's wrestling is that the transition from folk style to the international style happens between high school and college, whereas on the men's level, for the most part, the transition doesn't happen, at least on a full-time or primary focus, from college into the international level. Terry and Clarissa, what do you see as the benefits in accelerating their readiness for competing on the international level when they make that transition 4 years earlier than they do on the men's side?
I think it's huge. I mean, it's a huge step for us to have our women's college programs, wrestling style of freestyle wrestling. We just don't lose those 4 years, and we have everyone involved. And and I think a lot of times in the U.S. we don't look at it like it's that big of a deal. But when you're trying to be the best in the world, and you're going against the rest of the world that is wrestling freestyle only, from when they were babies or beginners in the sport, those 4 years can be a huge difference in the development. And I think it's one of the reasons that USA national teams and our senior national team has had the success they had over the past 15, 20 years, and even before that, is because the opportunities that we have right now is really directing them into freestyle at an early age where they're still, you're still shaping their wrestling and you're still developing who they are. And once you get to 24 years old, there's not a lot you're going to change. I mean, there's a lot of holes there that you're probably going to have a hard time filling by that age. And so I think that, that we can get athletes wrestling freestyle full time at 18 years old is a huge step in the right direction for us as a national program. And we're grateful that our college system, I think, saw that and believed in that years ago. And I think that was my Colts at Missouri Valley who really saw the need that we can do this in freestyle and help right away. And I think that Coach Michaels was a visionary, and he saw that from the beginning. And thank goodness now we have, like you said, 85 college programs that are all freestyle wrestling. So we're grateful for that.
Right. Yeah, I was part of the first Missouri Valley College wrestling women's wrestling team, and you know, like I said, I never wrestled before my junior year in high school, so freestyle I didn't even know what it was. We had a women's coach who didn't know freestyle, but we learned as a team. We went to tournaments. We learned that if we did a switch, we would give up 2 points, because we would expose our own back. And I think it's huge to start in the college years to keep it freestyle, because their technique on the mat is different, like learning the gut wrenches and leg laces and whatnot, and the tactics, right, like of zone awareness and whatnot. So it's just to get a head start on that 4 years within 4 years of college I think is huge. And for me, I never looked at it any different. If anything, I thought it was exciting to learn something new, something. And granted, I didn't wrestle very long before that, but I was just learning the international style. That was what my goals were, is to be a world and Olympic champion. So.
And Drew, as you're talking to kids from around the country who are interested in wrestling in college, is that something that you hear that girls are excited about switching to freestyle, or is it something they're nervous about, or what are those conversations like?
I think they're excited because like the transition is so seamless, right? Like you're doing it from roughly age 18 to 22. And then if you want to have an international career right after that, it just flows right into it. Obviously, on the men's side, it's a little different, but focusing on the women's side, I mean, I've actually had wrestlers that are like, I don't want to wrestle folk style in high school. I just want to keep wrestling freestyle. And I understand that, right? I think freestyle is the most, exciting style. But yeah, like they're super excited. And I know we were saying this off air, last time, and I was like, maybe the NAI for men should just go freestyle, giving men like that option, that 4-year option, so that they could have that transition too, because I'm not thinking the NCAA would ever do that, but because a lot of the female wrestlers that I work with, I mean, when they're 9, 10, 11, they're wrestling freestyle. They're wrestling freestyle at national tournaments. They're competing against the best in the country, and then they have to go to folk style for a while, which is fine because it teaches them different skills and what have you, and control and in certain aspects. But there are definitely a cohort of women that I work with where they don't want to go back to it. They just want to go freestyle the whole time, which I understand.
Yep, and we've certainly seen. I was just going to mention, and Terry, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, but we've certainly seen benefits internationally when maybe a scramble breaks out as a pretty rare situation, but a lot of times wrestlers that have at least a decent folk style background may have more comfort in weird positions than people who only did freestyle. And so having at least a little bit of a folk style background and then switching to freestyle at an earlier age just seems to help prepare them for that international stage a little bit sooner than otherwise.
Well, yeah, I think that, there's benefits to folk style wrestling for sure. I think that it's definitely a different style, and we get hurt by it some as well, but there's definitely benefits from it, like you're saying, that we do see when kids come in. It's learning those, the basic parterre skills, I think, is the biggest thing with that. I know if I look back when I first got involved in 2002, and USA Wrestling was saying like, really, these are your 25 athletes that you're probably going to win with or lose with in 2003 and 4. I when we went to the 2002 World Championships, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't understand. I didn't know what our competition looked like. Right? I wasn't involved with women's wrestling. I didn't know what our competition really was, and so we went into the 2002 World Championships, and it was a rude awakening for me to see how far we were behind in our skills. So really, from the fall of 2002, I was just with the program for like 3 months at that point, and until the 2003 World Championships, I just kind of said that the only thing we're going to focus on is parterre offense and defense on our feet. And that's the thing I can probably try to correct the quickest. And that's what we focused on. And Clarissa was a part of that team. I mean, and she knows that zeroed in on those aspects of the sport. And I just thought that whatever offense they have on their feet, we're going to go with it. But we're going to learn how to turn people in the parterre position. And at that time, if you remember, the rules had forced parterre. So almost in every match, you're going to be in the parterre position. And as long as we knew how to turn someone, and we won so many matches, and we had so much success just developing that aspect of the sport for these athletes in 1 year's time frame. Just learning ground wrestling and freestyle, that it really catapulted us to a different level. And so I know that there's benefits for sure of folk style wrestling, but the sport of freestyle wrestling is, we've got to learn those intricacies, and parterre also, it really hurts us. And that was just one example that, from 2002 to 2003, we made huge gains in 1 year. We had great athletes, of course, involved, and they had to do the work. And that focus just gave us a lot. We went in 2002, we had 2 medalists, and we were 11th in the world, right? And I thought we had a good team going in. I didn't know. Right? We walked away from that World Championships, and my eyes were definitely widened, and I was definitely had a clearer picture of what we were up against. And we came into the 2003 World Championships, and we medaled everyone. We had 7 out of 7 medals, and just never missed the World Championship. We tied with Japan, but the growth was really from just the focus in that specific area of wrestling, and it gave us great success.
Maybe no better testament to where the team is at now than the results from the Pan Am Olympic qualifier that we had, kind of the last event before we essentially all had to go underground, when we went 4 for 4 on the weights we still needed to qualify, securing 6 spots for the Olympic Games in Tokyo. Clarissa, do you want to talk a little bit about what that performance was like from our athletes? I mean, we went to Canada, which is certainly one of the more storied programs within women's wrestling, and our athletes were flawless in their performance there in Pan Am's.
Oh yeah, they were dialed in. They were ready. They were excited, and I think, a lot of the matches, some of them were close, but when I think of the ones that took it away, it was parterre offense that, like someone like Sarah, like, closed out matches using her offensive parterre, but yeah, it's they came together and they went down and fought for every point, and they were determined to come back, having the weights qualified, because they didn't want to go leaving it to after the Olympic trials. They wanted to get the job done then, and so it was exciting. It was really exciting.
Yep. So this will be the first Olympic Games where we send 6 women's wrestlers representing Team USA, and so fortunately for us, the IOC ruled that the Olympic qualifying spots that have been earned in all the different sports are going to remain intact with the delay. And so now our athletes just get to focus on the Olympic trials when those will take place sometime. We're expecting, about a year from now, next April, leading into Tokyo. But Drew, switching back more onto the high school side of things, for those athletes that are out there that want to learn more about how do I get connected with a college program, how do I find what's out there, what kind of tools does NCSA have to help those high school athletes navigate that space?
Well, I think I alluded to this before. Like the second a new program gets added, of course I get excited, right? And then locate the coach, reach out to the coach. We get them up on the website. So like within like we already have St. Andrews like on our website, like literally it just happened. We have him up there. We have his email up there, so that, the student athletes can reach out, and again, with the outreach, like everything's just right there for you. You don't have to go to even the school website. You just, all 84, 85 now schools are like right there for you. So you can just search them based on location, tuition, size of the school. Of course, we want to add more Division I programs, which is a topic for another day, but NAI is very healthy. Division III is growing exponentially in women's wrestling. Division II is growing, but it's staying constant at the same time. So, everything's right there. But at the end of the day, you have to find the right fit for you and the right location. And, it comes down sometimes the weight class needs too. So that those are things that we talk through with the recruits. And, it's a great situation when you have a outstanding student athlete that's a, junior or senior at your weight class, and then you can come in and be the girl, when you come in, you're like, I can do this right away. But again, I just go back to, I just think freestyle in college wrestling is super exciting. There's more points on the board, and if I'm working with a student athlete and they're a little bit apprehensive about that transition from folk style to freestyle, I just assure them that, it'll be a smooth transition as long as you have a good coach.
Yep. And this pandemic that we're in creates some extra challenges for kids trying to get on a college program's radars. I mean, the typical season that we're in is when they'd be going to compete in events like the girls folk style nationals or the women's nationals or the junior nationals, which we're still hopeful that we'll be able to get that in some capacity, but or development camps at the Olympic Training Center, a lot of things that are typically happening spring and summer that allow a high school wrestler to get on that national scene. A lot of those things are on hold right now. And so the NCSA platform gives them the ability to connect with programs and to search programs in a way that they can't otherwise right now.
Absolutely. And coaches are just getting, they're getting really, really proficient with doing Zoom room calls with recruits. They're reaching out to in ways that they've never done before. And this is going to make any coach at any level a better communicator, whether they're comfortable with it or not. This is the world we live in right now. And so they're going to use this down the road as well. Like I was saying, if you're a coach in California, let's call him Troy Steiner, and you got this stud in Jersey, and you want to make a connection, instead of just picking up the phone now, you're doing Zoom room. And you might have a current student athlete on your team telling them why you should come down to Fresno. The weather's great. We work really hard. We have huge crowds. We got a guy that just is going to the NFL, whatever. But I just think that coaches are going to use this more and more, as far as, outreach to student athletes. And, we can't travel right now. So this is what we have.
Good deal. And as we get ready to wrap up here, Terry and Clarissa, just want to hear from you guys, maybe one last thought on what you think is next for women's wrestling. It's made such incredible strides over the last 20 years. What do you think is next for women's wrestling?
Well, I think what we've been talking about, right? I mean, I see that I look down the road 10 years from now. I mean, hopefully I'm looking at a picture that has, 50 states that are sanctioning the sport of women's wrestling, and hopefully it has all three divisions having, and not only in NAI national championships, they have an invite championship right now, but they'll, once they get to the number of 40 schools, national championships, but then Division 1, 2, and 3 having separate national championships for those, all of those programs out there. I mean, that's what I hope I envision, and really, I do, and I've said it for a while, and I do think there will come a time when USA dominates the world of women's wrestling, and I believe that, and it's because of our infrastructure. It's because of our athletic programs within our educational system, right? And that's something that there's not a country out there that doesn't envy that, right? If you talk about countries like, Russia and China and, Ukraine and those kind of countries, I mean, they envy what we have with our educational system and our athletic programs tied to it. And there's so much power in that, and especially with women's wrestling having it, a college system being freestyle. I mean, it really just enhances that ability, and it becomes a numbers game, right? We're opening up so many opportunities within the sport in this country over the last few years, and it just keeps getting, it keeps growing exponentially faster, and I think as that happens, we're gonna see that, helping the national team program. I mean, it's just a great time to be a part of women's wrestling in this country. There's unprecedented growth, and that will follow as those numbers come. We have more and more athletes to choose from. I mean, the success will follow that. There's not a doubt in my mind that happened. And it's exciting to be a part of right now, but it's going to be exciting to watch in the future as well. And I just see great things happening to the USA Wrestling National Program because of the efforts of so many at the grassroots level, state level, and at the college level.
Yeah, I envision the same, just an explosion of women wrestling everywhere, and then if they continue on to international level or not, whether they'll be prepared for whatever career or whatever field they choose. They'll become great leaders just by what the sport gives to them. How it builds them up and gives them their strength. So.
And Drew, you'd be okay with 400 college women's programs, right?
Oh, I'd be elated. Are you kidding? They would never, ever, nobody would even be close for a world title at that point. And that's the thing. Like, we had almost 22,000 high school wrestlers this year, 22,000 up from 800 in 1994. And I know that's a long time back, but that increase is going up so much. And on the men's side, we are staying consistent, which is also great. But the more programs, I mean, the more opportunities. And then, like Terry said, then more girls are going to wrestle in high school, because they have those opportunities for scholarships. And the ratio is still pretty good, as far as if you're wrestling in high school and you want to go onto that college level. And like Clarissa said, maybe you're just setting yourself up for a great job afterwards. Not everybody wrestles international. I wasn't that good, so, your days end, in college sometimes, yet you're setting yourself up. You have a great scholarship. You're at a school where you're making these lifelong friends, and then you go on to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a coach, a high school coach, whatever. But I just think we need more opportunities, and the trajectory is going in the right direction for sure. I mean, when I talk to my coworkers, you know, I always kind of brag a little bit. I'm like, women's wrestling is the fastest growing sport in college athletics.
Yeah.
It is.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for getting today, guys. And big shout out to NCSA. Very grateful for the partnership that we have with them. And it's a tremendous tool for high school kids out there to be able to find college programs that they'll be a great fit for. And I'm sure within the next couple of weeks, we'll continue to see new programs being added at the high school and college level, and we'll just keep that momentum going.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.